How's it going, guys? And welcome to our 2021 product sneak peek, product news stuff coming for ZT Knives. We're sitting down with Jim from ZT. How's it going?
Going good, man. How are you?
Good, good. Let's jump into some new ZTs. What's this first one we got on the table?
Okay, so the first one we got on the table is, I would call it kind of a new flagship knife for our line. This is the 0762. So a couple really cool features about this knife. And I want to point out up front that these are prototypes. We're doing great in production on these. We were just a little early when we filmed all this. So what we're looking at is prototype. There are a few things that are going to change, and I'll point those out. But overall, this is the design. This is the function. So we have, I don't know what to call this blade shape. Modified Wharncliffe.
There you go. You just throw modified in front. You could be a modified cleaver. It's just modified,
But I really enjoy this blade shape. That drop tip again makes it real good for the kind of work you do with a knife. Cutting boxes. I always say that, but we do a lot of that these days. It's the Amazon generation. We're always opening boxes.
Boxes and envelopes for days.
So useful blade shape. CPM 20 CV. So the sample I'm holding here is stonewashed, but this will actually have our two-tone stonewashed flats and satin grinds on it in production. We have the oversized silver pivot hardware on here, full carbon fiber handles, and again, the other thing I'll point out is that the production knife will have a black carbon fiber handle. It looks really sharp. So this knife is running on KVT ball bearing washers. We're also using the Tune detent system. So for those who aren't familiar, basically the concept of that is that we add a separate lock bar inside of the front handle, and we relocate the detent hole to the front side of the blade. So what that does is when you're holding the knife and your fingers end up on the lock bar, you can't lock the knife up. You don't. Sometimes people will, with frame locks and subframe locks, they'll squeeze here, and it makes the knife hard to open. And in this case, it doesn't matter where you put your fingers because that detent has been relocated to the front where you can't ever touch it.
Cool.
So if you can see this here, we actually have two layers in the front of this, two layers of stacked liners inside of here. The top layer is actually a titanium layer. It's anodized a real nice blue color. And then the steel piece you see underneath that, the kind of silver steel underneath that you're actually seeing that Tune detent bar. So then on the back side of this knife, we have a subframe lock mechanism. Again, with kind of that it's got a shape that's ramped away a little bit to help keep your fingers off the bar. So we're kind of doing everything we can to make this knife open nicely. You've got kind of a pocket for your fingers to fit into, but if they do end up down here, it still opens nicely. We have a bent titanium pocket clip, titanium subframe lock, and then we have blue titanium tube spacers as well. So pretty much everything on this knife that can be titanium we're anodizing in a nice blue color. We're going to have this blade, it looks nice in the stonewash. It'll look even better with that nice two-tone satin finish on it. And we're real happy with how these have turned out. Nice slick action. MSRP of $400 on this guy. And again, they always get discounted from there in case people don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, check bladehq.com, guys, for current pricing on that. No, this is a neat one. It's slim, it's smooth. I like all the considerations on opening and closing. There's nothing that ruins a knife more than if that lock bar, you're pinching that lock bar when you're trying to fly the knife open. Yeah. And then what will be the blade steel on this?
So this will be 20 CV.
20 CV. Yeah, I figure ZT, right? Like always with that great 20 CV. And what's really fun about this is mine's even a little more different than yours. So it's kind of cool to see, get this like ultra sneak peek of your guys' kind of production process of, hey, let's try out a couple things,
Exactly.
So it'll be fun to see that finished product. And we should have a picture of it. We'll pop it up here on the screen somewhere, guys. So you guys can see what it will look like in production.
Yep. And that's the R&D process. We love to. You can make renderings all day long, but there's just something about being able to actually see it in person where you go, I like it. Yeah, no, I don't. And in this case, we chose to go with a little more subdued look. And we feel like that black carbon fiber really, there's a lot of cool detailing in the way these are machined, and it shows a lot better in that black carbon fiber.
Cool. Now, this next one on the table kind of follows suit with that one. And, when I think ZT, I usually think, kind of like the big burly, a knife to survive their apocalypse.
Yeah.
What's the name on this next, or I guess the number on this next one?
The number on this one is the 0990.
0990. Now I have to ask. So with these two and a couple other you guys have done in the past. In 2020, you did the slip joint, which was pretty cool. The carbon fiber slip joint with that sheep's foot or modified sheep's foot blade on it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see ZT coming out with these kind of unique, more I don't know. I wouldn't call it more EDC friendly. Maybe just more slender designs, right? A little more pocketable, maybe.
Yep, and that's been something that has. I think I've talked about it before, but it's been kind of a focus for us. Is we used to make knives that were really wide, and we still do. I mean, if you look at like a 308, that's a big knife, and it's broad and it's burly. But a lot of the time, for everyday carry, we like to have something that's a little slimmer. This one's kind of in the middle. It is sleek. It's not the slimmest thing we make, but it's definitely not wide. And so this. For some of you may remember, we made a knife a few years ago called the 999, and it was a big knife that we won an award at Blade Show, and it was a real fun product, and we didn't make that many of them. And so this one is meant to be something that everybody can get. It's very cool, and truthfully, I like this better than the original in a couple of ways because it's really easy to carry. So it's not the slimmest thing we make, but it's actually still quite slim. This is, I think, about 0.4 inches thick. This was scaled down from the original. The original had like a 3.75 inch blade. This is about 3.25. And in this case, we have the big opening in the blade to kind of mimic the carbon fiber insert that was in there. We have carbon fiber scales. We have a stainless steel overlay here. And then the construction is it's similar to the 999 in that we still have that I call it the flying bridge. So, I mean, you can see that this whole construction of the backspacer is all opened up. It's not connected to the handle. This whole thing's floating. It's cantilevered out there. And so this kind of leads me to a little bit of why it's made the way it is, because these are two steel liners. So we did want this knife to be a little more, I won't call it value price, because it's not the cheapest thing we make. The MSRP is $275 on this one, but it's not the most expensive knife either. But the reason for these really had nothing to do with cost. Because this is so small, it's hard to really get a gauge for it on the screen, but these are really narrow and relatively slim because we wanted to make this really easy to carry. And so we made these out of a stainless steel to give them that extra rigidity. Some people may not know titanium actually gets kind of flexy when it gets thin like this. Mm-hmm. And so we built this as what we felt it needed to be a sturdy, robust ZT knife. And in this case, we have a full backspacer. I don't know if you can read it there, but we have the zero tolerance logo debossed into that backspacer. Something kind of fun, again, kind of a neat detail. Yeah. Reversible deep carry pocket clip, carbon fiber handle, and a 20 CV blade, again, running on our KVT ball bearing washers, and nice snappy action on these. Also relatively light. I mean, it's got the steel liners, but it's really quite light.
And that was the thing that with how light this one, even the other one is fairly light. And that was kind of got me thinking on that train of ZT and this cool direction of a little more pocketable, I guess. Yeah. I really like that zero tolerance though, deboss there in that backspacer, because it's you get a little bit of branding, but it's not like a big ugly billboard, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be subtle and something that is kind of a second read. It's just not in your face.
Yeah, it's cool. That's way cool. Now, speaking of big and chunky, you guys have a new variation to what is quickly becoming a classic.
The 0308 series. Yeah, so going the total opposite direction. This is the 0308, and as many of you will know, we introduced this knife last year in a little bit of different. We kind of made the Gibbs knife, if you will. The original 0300, it was the 0302. That had the Coyote tan handles, and it's kind of a cult classic. People still search for that knife, and so when we made the new 308, we decided to kind of give it that look with the Coyote tan. And in this case, we've gone back to basics with a nice black G10 scale. We have the tiger striping, which you've seen us do before in our ZT lineup, but this one's a little different because it's actually tiger striping over a black wash finish. If I kind of roll that in the light, you can see it's a bit more of a gray color than the deeper black.
Yeah.
We have the same great solid 1/4 inch pivot going through this. It's a big mass. I take it back. It's a little smaller, but it's It's about a 200 thou pivot
Yeah.
going through that blade. Nice, and it's a solid pivot, again, as we've talked about in the past. We still have the ability to adjust this with a 1/2 inch open end wrench. So you can use a crescent wrench, you could use a 1/2 inch combo wrench, and you can adjust that in the field with minimal tools. Still running on KVT ball bearing washers. The back handle is titanium with that nice full texture, and this is a black DLC finish on that. Reversible pocket clip, and again the hole spacing where if you can get your hands on a Starling Gear clip or a Steel Flame clip, they're great guys. There's lots of other companies that are making aftermarket clips now. They should be able to fit this pattern. It's a very common 3-hole pattern that you see on lots of different knives. But again, just neat, cool variant. I think this is going to do pretty well. It's something that people really love, the tiger stripe finish. And again, that big burly 308 with opens with a thwack.
Yeah, it really does. And one thing I love about this knife is like, no, just grab a crescent wrench to adjust the pivot. You know, I love it.
Exactly. It's easy. I had to actually bring one to the show, but no, you really can. It's just,
Yeah,
it's a 1/2 inch wrench.
that's cool.
Half inch combo wrench or a crescent wrench will do the job.
No, and it's neat to see that tiger striping on a few more of the knives, because yeah, I mean, I see it and people really love that tiger striping. So, and kind of cool to see it in a little bit of a different way than you guys have done in the past. So
Yeah.
cool, right on. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for running us through some of this new ZT stuff. And we were talking earlier, most of this should be available before June-ish, is what you guys are thinking?
Yeah, I'd say look from a mid-second quarter.
There we go.
So we're
Cool.
working to get them out there to you.
Right on. Well, thanks, Jim, so much for coming on and showing us through all this stuff. And thank you guys for following along. Make sure to check out our playlist. We've got a bunch of new, awesome 2021 product, and catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching our preview of some sweet 2021 knives. Make sure to subscribe to Blade HQ for more content like this. You can find all the knives in this video over at bladehq.com. And down below, you'll find a sweet 2021 playlist for all the new knives that are out there.